Recording in progress.
One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. Just a couple of announcements. Want to remind everybody we are virtual tonight, and because we are virtual, we are being recorded. We also have a tremendous number of people participating tonight, as this is a joint meeting with FinCom, with the school committee, with the historic commission. So lots of people out there, both panelists and attendees. I will, there are two features here. You can raise your hand or you can, there's a Q&A and you can submit your question. We're going to try and do the raise your hand as the default way to ask a question or make a comment out there. As I said, there are a lot of people participating. If I don't see you, hopefully I've got a few other people who are watching and who will bring it to my attention. It is not intentional by my part at all. Just a lot of people and screens to manage here tonight. So with that, our first item on our open forum is to recognize Sue Hanley, our Board of Health member, for being named a Commonwealth Heroine of 2021 by the Massachusetts Commission on the Status of Women. Sue was nominated by Representative Arciero for her decades now of work and commitment here in Westford. So where do I start? Sue, for the past 20 years, has been a school nurse here in Westford, starting first at Blanchard and now at the Stony Brook. She has been, throughout her career, a passionate advocate for mental health awareness and for suicide awareness. She has run seminars and classes and provides networking information for parents and residents of our town who are dealing with mental health issues. She is a fierce fighter for what she believes in, and she will not give up until she has basically explored every single option on behalf of somebody who she is advocating and working for. Throughout the pandemic, Sue has been at the forefront, keeping Westford and our schools safe. She has served as a vaccinator for first responders, and she has done contact tracing both here in Westford and in Tewksbury. Her other volunteer activities include the Merrimack Valley Medical Resource Corps, the Westford Parent Connection, Rodenbush, and Westford Against Substance Abuse. As I mentioned, she's also a member of the Board of Health, and she is also a current member of the Town and School Safety Task Force. She's also she's coached cross-country track. She has been the president of Westford Youth basketball. And in between all of that, she has managed to raise 4 children here in Westford. She is a marathon runner. And I know that she just recently completed, I think it's your 4th, but I'm not sure, Pan Mass Challenge. And for those of us who live in her neighborhood, we often see her either running or biking through the neighborhood. So it gives me great pleasure to see that the Commonwealth has recognized Sue for what we all know her to be here in Westford for so long, for the care and the passion that she brings to us here in Westford. She makes she makes a difference every day in our community for our residents, for our students, for parents, just for everyone. So, Sue, congratulations on a very well-deserved and well-earned award.
Thank you very much. It was my 6 p.m. seat, but that's okay.
So I missed a few, okay?
So I'll just take 2 minutes of your time. Last year was a very hard year in many, many ways. Very difficult year. We all went through it. As a school nurse and a vocal member of a COVID committee, I dealt with a lot of backlash, and there was a lot of people angry with what I had to say. And yet my belief has been I have always and only done what I think is in the best for the best, for everybody's best interest. So at the end of the school year, it was pretty difficult for me. So to get Jim's award, it was pretty emotional for me because it was kind of a reassurance that I was exactly where I was supposed to be. So I don't think Jim even realized the impact that that award had on me emotionally and personally. So thank you very much, Andrea. Thank you so much for your kind words. I am thrilled to be part of this town. I have enjoyed my run as a school nurse, but I've also enjoyed my run as a town board member. So again, thank you so much for recognizing me and for giving me this opportunity to be here with all of you.
Thank you, Sue. Okay, with that, we will move on to our 7:35 p.m. item, which is our consent agenda. And we have a request to approve the following, which is a special license request for the Harvest Fest Yard and Artisan Sale and Cow Patty Palooza. The applicant is Westford Remembers and Good Pickin' Farm. It will be at 5 Gould Road, Saturday, October 16th, 2021. The time is from 2 to 6 p.m. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you. And again, because we're virtual, we need to do roll call votes. So Tom?
Aye.
Anita?
Aye.
John? Where's John? Oh, you're muted, but you look like you're saying aye.
Aye.
And Scott?
Aye.
And I. Okay. All right. We are at our 7:40 p.m. Item, which is a public hearing that for the violation of Mass General Law, Chapter 138, Section 34, sale of alcohol beverages to persons under 21 years of age. Can I have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, and all those in favor, Anita?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Aye. And can I have a motion to waive reading of the public hearing notice?
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Okay. All those in favor, John?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Anita?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Deputy Chief, wow, it's kind of nice to say that. Deputy Chief Palaskis, would you like to give us a report and tell us where we are?
Yes, could you hear me? I was having a little microphone difficulty.
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, members of the board. On July 15th, the Acton Police Department contacted our department regarding a liquor law violation in regards to the liquor store located at 439 Littleton Road Liquors in Westford. They had indicated that on the early morning hours of July 14th, they had a motor vehicle accident which involved two minors. The driver was 17 years old and the passenger was 16 years old. As a result of the accident, both occupants of the vehicle sustained injuries and were transported to Boston Children's Hospital. The subsequent investigation completed by the Acton Police Department revealed they spoke to the operator of the motor vehicle. He admitted to going into the liquor store located at 439 Littleton Road on the evening of the 13th and purchasing two 12-packs of Bud Light Platinum beer and 10 nips of vodka. He also said when he went in there, the clerk did not ask for his ID and that he'd been in there 3 or 4 other times and had never been asked for his ID. During the investigation that was done by the Acton Police Department, it was, according to the Acton Police Department report, the gentleman that owns the store was cooperative, and the receipt matching the purchase description that the juvenile that said he purchased was found on the day and time of the purchase. When asked what the clerk of the store looked like, the description given matched that of the store owner, which was about a 5'9" Asian male with spiked hair. That's the crux of the case.
All right. Attorney Tron, I see that you are here and have joined us. So would you like to respond or say anything?
Yes, and thank you for the opportunity. Good evening, members of the board, and good evening, Deputy. I helped this client got the liquor license approved May of 2021, and they didn't take over until June, some early June, and this incident happened about a month afterwards. My client admitted to that the person did come into the liquor store, and once before she did recognize him, and the person that served is her husband, who worked at the liquor store as well. But the 2 times that she remembered the person coming in, he came in with someone who looked a lot older than 16, 17. And I asked her, how old does this person look? She said close to 30. So she sold, and so she does admit that that person was there. The one thing that she didn't know, which I had advised her afterwards, was to check everyone else's license, not just the person that's purchasing. Subsequent to the incident, they bought a scanner. I know that they're reading the reports that's here. There are prior issues with this liquor store, and obviously she didn't know that prior, but now that she knows, with the everyone trying to test out this liquor store, and especially her being a new owner, she purchased a card reader, and there were 2 times after this incident that she had to call the police in reference to these minors, and there was one time there was a fake ID, so she did call the police on these situations, and she knows now that she has to card anyone and everyone. I'd advise her that looks under 30, and when there are multiple people together, if they're all together and one of them looks as a minor, they know to ID everyone, not just the purchaser.
Okay.
I have a client here, very nervous. So if you have any direct questions, I can explain to her as well.
Okay. Let me ask the members of the board if anybody has any questions or comments. Tom?
Sort of a question, I guess, for the deputy chief as well. So you described some of the remedial action that the owner went through to try to be better prepared to make sure this never happens again. I guess my question is that the entirety of the training? Were there other people who might be working shifts there that have also been trained? And maybe for the deputy chief, are there other things you recommend in a situation like this to make sure something like this doesn't happen again? So that was a 2-part question. Maybe first to you, Attorney Tron. Was there anything else, and were all the other people who might be on shift also appropriately retrained?
Yes, there are 3 people actively working at the store. One is a part-time employee. The other one is the husband that actually did the sale, and the wife, which is the owner, whom I just showed you the picture of. And they have all gotten the specific training on how to use the card system and how to ID. The other 2 are eventually going to get their tip certification as well, just so that they know how to do these things and how to serve correctly.
And through you, Madam Chair.
Yes, go right ahead.
Deputy Chief Palaskis, yes. Anything else you recommend in situations like this that you'd like to see store owners do to make sure their training is up to date?
I mean, I would just have them train all their employees to card everyone, no matter how old they look, whether they look, 21 or if they look 50. Liabilities on them if they serve somebody. So they should be, just train their employees to card everybody.
Okay, and this is a policy question for you, Andrea. I think since they're new owners, this under our policy would be treated as a first-time offense, even though other events have happened at the same site.
That's how I interpret it, Tom, is that,
Okay.
they are new owners, so I don't think that we can impute to them what's happened in the past with past owners. And I believe the penalty is a 3-day suspension.
Yeah, 3-day suspension, yes.
Thanks.
Yes. Attorney Scott, sorry, there it is. I see it.
Just a question probably for the deputy chief, but yeah, we've had in the past several of these cases where liquor stores are sold to minors or had fake IDs, and after the fact they get the readers. Is there any means by which the town could have a bylaw or something that says a liquor store must have a reader? That would save, I think, both the owners and you and the town from having these conversations.
I think that's something, you have to reach out to ABCC and see if that's something that they require. I'm not aware of anything that we can require in a bylaw, but it is something we could research and see if it is something we could require in the future.
Jody, I think you had your hand up.
Yes, the select board are or is the local licensing authority. So you do have the authority to make that restriction. So if that's something you want to do, I would say that we should probably put that on an agenda for discussion and consideration, but then we could notify any applicants. Now, they could appeal if you denied until they had that to the ABCC, and the ABCC could possibly overturn it, but you are the local licensing authority, so you do have that authority.
I think I'll put on a future agenda. This is a almost common thread through all of the hearings we've had is either fake IDs or checking IDs, and that reader would solve all these problems before somebody else gets hurt.
I think that makes sense. I'll get you in. Hang on a minute. I think that makes sense, and we can certainly put it on a future agenda. Anita?
Yeah, and just to add to that idea, having the training to go with the license kind of at the get-go. I don't know what that training looks like, but I think just being able to kind of have that at the beginning, along with a card reader, might be something to discuss as well.
I totally agree with that as well, in that the training, because the issue here is the training as opposed to checking the ID, because she did know that the person who's purchasing looks older. So yeah, it's an ID checking, but she should have checked the ID of all the people who are with that other person who looks like a minor. So I think it is a training issue as opposed to the ID as well. So I do agree with that.
Okay, so we can put that on a future agenda in terms of discussion of training and also requiring a card reader as part of the licensing process. For tonight, Littleton Road Liquors, does have a violation. It is their first violation, and under our policy, it is a 3-day suspension. Attorney Tron, we try not to be too heavy-handed, at least for the first time, but it will be a 3-day suspension. If there are 3 days that your client is willing to be closed, we'll certainly take any suggestions she might have into consideration. We have also spread those out as well so that it could be, over a course of 3 weeks or 4 weeks, 1 day each week, in a way to accommodate her and the business. So if you would like to take a moment to discuss that with your client, you certainly can feel free to do that. We can go on to some other business that we have here and then come back to you. Unless, of course, you've already talked about that with your client and you have you're ready to make a proposal to us.
It's just going to take 2 seconds. We did talk about this before, but I'm just going to confirm the 3 days and go back to the board. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. And so she asked if we can do 1 day per week, and it's each Monday of the consecutive weeks.
Beginning when?
The board can choose.
So if we began next Monday, September 20th, 27th, and October 4th?
Yes. Yes.
Any comments from the board? Everybody on the board okay with that?
Any motion for that effect, or?
Yeah, I would.
Okay, so I make a motion that we have the Wilson World Liquors closed the Monday, September 20th, 27th, and October, what was it? 4th, in consideration of their first offense for serving minors, a minor.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All right. Any further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor, Scott?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Anita?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Attorney Tron, and your client. And to be quite frank, we hope we don't see you back here again.
Thank you so much, board members.
All right. Okay. We are at our 8 p.m. item.
We need to close the public hearing.
Oh, thank you. Yes. Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor, John?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Anita?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, John.
You're welcome.
All right. Now we're at our 8 p.m. item. Our 8 p.m. item is a joint meeting with the school committee, the FinCom, and the Permanent Town Building Committee. I guess before we start this joint meeting, I just need to make sure with the chairs of those committee, are you guys in session, or do you need a moment to bring all of you into session?
School committee is not yet in session.
So you want to do that, Chris?
Yeah, I call to order this meeting of the Westford School Committee.
I'm going to start. I'm going to call the Finance Committee to the order on September 14th, joint with School Committee and the Board Select Board.
And the Permanent Town Building Committee.
And Permanent Town Committee. Thank you, Andrew.
No problem. And, hey, Tom, are you good?
Yes, so I'll call the meeting of the Permanent Town Building Committee for September 14th, 2021 with the Finance Committee, Select Board, and School Committee to order.
Okay, now that we are all in session. So the first item is the presentation and discussion of the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021 federal funding. Jody and Dan, I think, are going to lead the way here.
Yeah, I think we have a brief presentation. It is in your packet, all the materials, but Dan will walk us through it.
All right, I'm just going to bring that up right now. Okay, can everybody see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so this is the American Rescue Plan Act of 2001. I just have to, okay. So we're going to talk about the funding first. Essentially, for being a town, Westford is receiving just under $2.6 million. We've already received half of that. It's in the bank right now. And then we're receiving an additional $4.8 million because we have a non-functional county. So that money was reallocated to the towns as well. So in total, we have $7.4 million in funding, with $3.7 million in the bank right now. We're going to receive the second half of that next year. Couple little things here. The town may not deficit spend these grants, these funds. We have to submit spending reports to the federal government on October 15th of each year. And all the funds must be allocated by December 31st of 2024 and spent by December 31st of 2026. Now, I go through the eligible uses of the ARPA funds. First off, it's basically supporting the public health expenditures. It's basically taking over for the things we were funding with the CARES Act and FEMA, such as PPE, all sorts of different things to keep our buildings open. And here's a complete list of examples that were provided to us. There are too many to read, but they're there in your packet if you're interested in looking at those. So we also reached out to staff, wanted to hear their recommendations on how to utilize these funds and give us ideas. One of them was to continue our fire department staffing at 10 per shift. We also want to pursue paramedic and EMT training and certification for the next 3 years. We want to keep our contract tracing going in the health department, need to purchase COVID tests and so on. So, we do have a lot of needs out there that COVID has brought on that we'd like to continue using this money for. The next section is addressing the negative economic impacts caused by the public health emergency. So, for this, we can use money to allocate towards families in need, who need food assistance, rent assistance. We can set up programs for small grants for businesses or whatnot. And we can rehire public safety staff that was let go because of budget issues, and also replenish the unemployment insurance trust funds. So that being said, what was asked from our departments was to have some sort of funding set aside for rental assistance and food vouchers, and to look at that unemployment trust fund. Before the pandemic happened, we were spending about $80,000 per year in unemployment insurance, and now it's trending at over $200,000 per year. It's because of the state deficit at this point, not because of Westford's. All right, this is the most exciting section here. This is replacing lost public sector revenue. The CARES Act didn't allow us to replace lost revenue, and the ARPA funds do. So I received a template from our audit firm, and my calculation for lost revenue as of 12/31/20 is over $5.8 million. And we get to redo that calculation for the next 3 years at the end of the year. So I think all the money is going to qualify as technically lost revenue. So what that means is that this money is more flexible, and they don't have to be used for the other 4 options here. They could be used for anything except for making debt payments, paying settlements, or being allocated towards the pension system or rainy day fund. And we just put a note here, since these are not recurring funds, it's good to fund items that are one time, such as capital. Okay, and we got a lot of possible uses for these funds. I put a couple on here. Most are capital requests. One here is replacing recreation enterprise lost revenue. The Rec Enterprise After School program was not running for most of the year last year. They did not bring in the revenue they needed. And the Department of Revenue is looking at this to see how much in one-time funding we need to apply to balance the budget this year. So if we don't use ARPA funds, we need to use free cash at town meeting to actually fund that difference. So moving on, another category is providing premium pay for essential workers. And that's to recognize the efforts of those who are basically at work every day during the pandemic. And we have the eligible town employees and other employees listed on the bottom here, including public health and public safety staff, teachers and janitors, and all sorts of different categories. And the last category is investing in water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure. We do have a water enterprise that, they do have several projects out there. We don't have a sewer, and we did just establish the stormwater enterprise last year. And we don't actually qualify for the broadband infrastructure because it's meant for communities that don't have high-speed internet. Westford has high-speed internet, so it doesn't really apply to us. All right, then the next 3 pages, Jody and I compiled a list of the requests that we got from all the departments, and we wanted to have a central database for those. I'm not going to read through them all. I think we can discuss them after, but there's a couple here that are a little bit time sensitive. One being we need to make a decision on the recreation deficit and how we're going to fund that. So hopefully at the next select board meeting, we could decide on that. This is still you see a $500,000 placeholder here. That's still an estimate. I'm still working with the DOR and going through the financial analysis for that. And then we have up here the paramedic and EMT continuing education and training costs for 3 fiscal years.
Can I just, excuse me, Dan, that the reason some of these are in red is because they were added after your packet was uploaded last week. So it doesn't necessarily mean they're higher priority. They just are late to the packet.
Thank you. So we do have a whole list of capital requests here, another request that is in your packet. Again, I won't read through them all, but I figure we could get to the discussion and have any questions.
Okay, so Dan, can you take your screen down? Thank you, so I can see people again as opposed to just four. So first, I also just want to let anybody know, and in the audience and residents, the presentation that Dan just did, as well as everything you're seeing tonight, it can be found on the town's website. If you go to the select board page and you pull down packets or agenda, you will be able to see all of these materials. So for anybody who doesn't have a hard copy, you can go online and see it. And there's a lot of information there. Jody.
Just to clarify, we're not really asking you to make any decisions on this tonight. We wanted to give you a high level overview of what this is, what we're talking about. We probably would like to put this on our next agenda for a couple of the time sensitive decisions we need, but it's really just giving you a high level overview of what this is.
Okay. But with that, do people have questions? Hari, it looks like your hand is up. Either that or you're waving at me.
No, I have my hand up. So I have at a high level, right? Are we able to allocate all of the funds appropriately, or is there any chance that we will lapse any of the funds, meaning we won't be able to apply and return some of the funds?
Jody or Dan, does one of you want to answer that?
You kind of faded out a little bit, Hari. I'm not sure I understood your question. If you could just ask again.
Yes. Is there any chance that we will not be able to use any of the funds, or are we be able to apply the American Rescue Plan funds, 4.5 million or whatever it is, to applicable budget entries?
In other words, can we use it all, or will we have to give anything back?
Yes.
I don't think we have any issue using these funds. We have a list of ideas here that exceed, I think, what funding we could possibly have. So I think we won't have any issue.
So it's a matter of priority as opposed to search.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
If we don't use the funds, then we don't get the funds. So, or I think we have to use the funds, or we may lose the funds, so to speak. So we certainly want to use them.
Thank you.
Okay. Other questions? Oops, somebody did. Wait a minute. Tom?
Hi. So I think, Jody, just two questions first on process. One is that these funds are effectively available now, right? So we're not waiting for any particular cycle to start. The funds that have already been given to the town could be put to use right away.
That's right. And all it takes is a select board vote. So these do not have to go to town meeting. It is up to the select board.
Okay. And was it our preferred path to put this on a future agenda and introduce ideas? One of the ideas you had in an early slide, which a number of people here are aware of, is the idea of bringing on a community wellness coordinator as a potential use. I know there's many competing uses, but that's one that's had some discussion. I'm just wondering how we would kind of exercise our way through that to making choices.
Yeah, I've actually been starting to think about that, Tom. And, it seems to me, when you look at that list, I mean, there are, many, many priorities, many, many things that are listed. And I think, I'm not sure yet, but I think we need to figure out a way sort of how to go through them, how to prioritize them, develop a priority list, develop then the cost associated with that, and figure out, where we are and what we have and how much we can spend. And, we need to think about that. I don't think we can do this in a sort of regular scheduled select board meeting with a lot of other things on our agenda. So I think it's going to require, some sort of special, separate, I don't want to call it special, but separate meeting to be able to do that. And maybe, prior to that, some work, before getting to the meeting in terms of trying to prioritize and put together, items for discussion. Still, thinking about that and working through that. But, there are now 51 people, which is terrific, on this meeting tonight. And I think it would be really hard to do that with 51 people in a meeting.
Yeah, completely agree. And also I'll be thinking between now and the time we get together about how much of the funding should go to things that are directly consequences of COVID and things, urgent needs we need to address, and which things look a little bit more opportunistic. If we have the money, we should definitely make use of it to benefit the citizens.
And also which things we need, have a time sensitivity, for now versus, we need that, but it can wait 6 months or it can wait till next year and figure that out as well. And then obviously working with Dan to figure out how it fits into our overall budget.
Yeah, agreed. Thanks.
Tom LaFlamme, I see that you have your hand up.
Yes, thank you. So this is all great news. My concern from the finance standpoint is things that will have impact down the road. So adding Janelle, obviously, we just have to keep in mind future funding, because this funding will be good for 4 years, but then, we'll be used to services and we'll want to continue those services, I'm sure, as opposed to some things that, and also looking at things that have a direct impact on residents' pocketbooks. So, one thought that was, I don't know if it was thought of, but, the sewer enterprise fund, the stormwater and whatnot, and whether or not we can offer the ability to skip that for a year or anything like that. That would have a direct impact on every resident in town. So just things to keep in mind that we have to look at the future as well.
Okay. Christina?
Hi, thanks. So I think that it was stated that we should use these for one-time funds, which I think is a good thing to keep in mind since this funding isn't going to be going on in the future. The other thing is a lot of these are capital items. So I'm guessing we're going to dovetail somehow with the capital committee and sort of use that priority to maybe feed into using these funds. And I wanted to echo what Tom said about keeping some funds maybe sort of set aside for future. We have, I think, 5 years to spend this. Dan, correct me if I'm wrong, but we have a few years before we need to spend it. Correct?
Yep, 5 years.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Okay. Heather, I know, had her hand up, and then Scott, I see you.
I was just going to say what Christina said, that I thought maybe the chairman of the Capital Committee should be roped into some of these future meetings, if not the committee as a whole.
Okay. Scott?
Yeah, I thought I was looking at the list and the high priorities and the maybes. Just wanted to throw out to the fact that HVAC systems are, something we learned about with COVID are critically important. And, the Cameron's got issues with theirs. So our most vulnerable citizens are the ones that need the HVAC upgrade the most. So I just sort of asked Jody and Dan and company if you might want to think about putting that up into the high priority.
Okay. Valerie?
Thanks. I just had a process question. I know that some of them, like the ESSER money that the schools are getting, have different like regulations attached to it that require community input. So I was just wondering if these funds have any kind of strings attached like that.
Jody or Dan, do you want to answer that?
I think this is part of our community input. There's no, we don't have to hold a certain number of meetings or anything like that, but just for transparency, we do want to bring these forward for public discussion.
Thanks.
Andrew, do you have a Q&A question from Dan Wood?
I didn't, but thank you for telling me. Diane Wood asked, do these funds and ideas apply to all departments, including schools, or do schools receive their own funding? Mike Wells is going to answer this question live. Ooh. Mike?
No, I was just checking the box to say that it had been answered. I'm afraid I don't know the answer.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh dear, I'm sorry. Dan, it wasn't. Do you want to answer it again, Dan?
Yes, schools can use the funds as well.
Right. I mean, it's really not so much what department that is asking for the funds as much as what the purpose is for that the funds are being used for. So long as they come within the purposes within ARCA, it doesn't really matter where the request comes from. Okay, let me make sure. I don't see anybody else's hand raised. If I've missed anybody, just kind of let me know, but I'm not seeing anybody. So I think in terms of where we go next from where we go from here next, I think Jody and Dan and you and Tom and I and perhaps Capital and someone from the schools need to brainstorm and get together about the process and how we're going to sift through all of these potential requests and funding needs so that we can then move forward and obviously let the public know and have another public meeting and a discussion. As I said, I don't think that we can do this in a regular scheduled select board meeting. I think it's going to take a meeting in and of itself that's devoted to this topic by itself. Valerie, I see you have your hand up again.
Yeah, sorry. I was just curious. It sounds like a lot of the next steps are refer to prioritizing the list that's in the slideshow. So I was curious if this list is intended to be complete or whether there's a method that additional things would be brainstormed and added to.
Absolutely. Oh, I'm sorry, Jody.
No, I'm sorry. Yeah, absolutely. This was just staff brainstorming, coming up with ideas. It's just something to get the conversation going. So
boy, it's a good thing she and I were on the same page. But yes, that's what I was going to say. If anybody has other ideas or suggestions, please funnel them to Jody and Dan. Okay, so the next item under this agenda item is an update on the current town debt and an impact on future large building projects. So Jody?
Yes, we thought it was a good time to bring forth an update on our debt situation. And I've asked Christine Collins to review this with us. Is she there? Yep, she is there. So she's going to walk us through and answer any questions that you all have. Christine, are you out there?
Where's Christine? I'm actually not seeing her.
I do see her.
She is there, but
Okay.
Is this better?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
great. I must have hit the little button on the cord on the headset. So you received in your packet a cover memo that just kind of described where we have, been and where we're going with excluded debt. You also received a chart that shows what the history of the impact of excluded debt has been on the tax rate. And, I'm going to because it was all in the packet, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but I'll just kind of review the highlights. So the school buildings that were excluded almost 20 years ago are going to be paid off in 2023, and the highway garage is going to be paid off in 2024. That's going to remove almost all of our excluded debt except for the fire station, I believe. So once that happens, we have had it on the financial model to put the new center building at 51 Main Street, the library expansion, school administrative offices, and more recently, we've been discussing the Blanchard roof for exclusion. If we were to do these buildings in the amounts that we are estimating here, which, we always have to do the caveat that these are only estimates, what we have estimated down below that chart that shows the buildings and everything, how it would impact the tax rate. And what we're seeing, whoever's pulling it up and down, could you just make sure we can still see 21 above there a little? Thank you. So what you can see is in 21, these were the actual figures for the tax rate. We had almost 57 cents of the tax rate was attributed to excluded debt. And on a house that was valued at the median value of $551,000, that amounted to $322.62 a year. For the new buildings, as they are going to be coming on, if they are approved and voted, the impact on the tax rate would actually end up being, I'm going to have to move my people faces so I can see the chart. It would actually end up being less than what we are currently paying in 2021, even if we exclude all 4 of these projects in 2024. The library is slated for 2027. I'm sorry. So it would be the 3 projects in 24 and then the library in 2027. In 2027, we do see it kind of rise back up a little bit again, but we would actually, at the time when the bonds were issued, just like we did with the fire station, we would have the option to structure the debt in such a way to make sure we did not have any kind of a spike. But this is just an illustration of, just us trying to manage the debt picture and keep the tax rate from doing, an up and down kind of a rhythm. We want to try to keep it more even and steady so that taxpayers are a little more prepared for what's coming in the mail. Are there any questions?
Okay, I need, thank you. So let's see, Christina.
Sorry, I couldn't find myself to unmute myself.
It's hard when you have 51 people.
Right. So Christine, I have a question on the estimate for the school admin building. That looks like it was $5 million. Is that correct?
That's a placeholder.
Okay.
They were originally talking about new buildings. And then more recently, as I understand it, they've been talking about perhaps renovations of existing buildings. So we don't know exactly what that number is going to be. The school committee has some decisions to make along with the town manager and board of selectmen, but that's a placeholder for now.
Okay. Do you think it would change that much if, let's say, that number were 10 million or 12 million?
It would change it. But I don't think it would create a giant spike because, you can see from even the library coming on, which is the largest building out of all of them, that it's still relatively smooth as other things are coming down off of the list as well.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm. Jody?
Yeah, I mean, we did not have firm numbers for that. I know Chris Chu might want to say something about that tonight, but our understanding is he'd like to take a look at the schools we have and enrollment and see what's possible. And that is a placeholder of renovating or expanding a school. The center building, we had Tom Hanna give an update because that building last time we cost estimated it was a couple years ago. So that number's a little higher than what we had before. Blanchard roof is an estimate, though we think it's pretty good. But I think the point is that we wanted all of you to know that we are in very good shape on our debt. And a lot of that's been through the hard work of Christine and our finance department. And we just wanted you to all know where we're at. And, I'm feeling very good about it.
Okay. Chris Chu, did you want to add anything to what Jody said?
Certainly, thank you. I know we were talking about the school building on this agenda tonight, and one of the things that we've been looking at more recently is looking to talk about potentially going to capital or figuring out what the most appropriate avenue would be to explore doing a feasibility study to look at engaging a consulting group to help us look at all of our buildings and work in what Jody was starting to talk about, not only a space utilization study, but looking at the demographic study as well as just future enrollment numbers so that we can look to see if it would make more sense for us to move our administrative offices into one of our existing buildings along with it still operating as a school as well too. So if we were to look and see, looking at redistricting as well. And so some of these things we can do individually, but to look at all of these things together, we'd like to explore working with a consulting firm to kind of help us develop a more specific master plan for that.
Okay. Let me see, other questions or comments? I'm not seeing anybody.
Scott.
Oh, Jody?
I think you've got Chris and Scott.
Oh, I'm sorry, Chris.
Oh, can I just say one quick thing?
Yes, Jody can say one thing, then Chris Saunders, and then Scott. Sorry about that.
The other thing I wanted to mention that I forgot is, we used a 4% interest rate in here, and obviously that's extremely conservative. So, we've built some padding into this model too.
Right.
Okay, thank you. Chris Saunders.
Yeah, thanks. Just to add on to what Dr. Chu said, yeah, we did our tours of some of our buildings last month, and we've been discussing a little bit about what we see in the future for the buildings. And so that sort of feasibility study that would look at a number of issues from demographics to school redistricting to the condition of the schools, I think we would want to be looking strategically far out because we've got buildings at a range of ages. And some of them are a little bit easier to plan out 5, 10 years and 15 years of where it's predictable what they're going to look like and how we're going to be able to use them. But I think it's really important for the district and for the town to be looking even farther and planning for buildings that may not be able to reasonably support the students that they will have in the future. Because as we, and Paul Fox speaks to this so well, as we have to do things to maintain buildings, it triggers various code things that require bigger changes. And it's just, we want to make sure we're being really strategic about not just the school buildings, but all the buildings and prioritizing properly as far as in 15 years, what are we going to need to do and what priorities and what decisions do we want to make today to be prepared to support all the buildings in the town.
Okay, thank you. Scott?
Just a question. I know Jody mentioned we've updated the cost for the town center building potentially, but that number for the library is also pretty old, right? So that 12.1 probably is more like 13 by now, right?
Christine is nodding. Christine Collins is nodding.
I think that's probably true. We've seen all the construction costs go up quite a bit the last couple of years, but I haven't seen anything recently from the library to give us a number to put in there. So yeah, you're right. It's going to cost something when we go to, we can smooth as much as we can smooth, but there's a point where it does start to cost something. It starts to, you may feel it a little bit. So for a project of that size. Yeah.
And Anita, I see your hand, but Tom has also raised his hand, and my guess is he's going to say something about buildings and costs, being the chair of the Permanent Town Building Committee. So I'm going to go to him first, but then I'll come back to you.
Yeah, I was just thank you, Anita. I was just going to add that so the updated cost system we provided, we had our we had Context, our consultant, work with their estimator just to give us an update. And we escalated it out to February of 2022. So it's, you know, we took our previous estimate and escalated out due to inflation that's occurred over the last year in anticipation to go to construction, you know, winter of next year. So I just want to make that point that $9.2 million figure was based on the project actually starting some point next winter.
Okay, thank you. Anita?
Yeah, I just wanted to piggyback off of Chris Sanders' comment about strategic planning and strategic thinking. And I know that, as a reminder, the Clean Energy and Sustainability Committee is also working with Paul Fox and I don't know what the right term is, but they're going to be looking at our school facilities and I think our buildings around energy efficiency, right? So maybe that's something we can build into this feasibility study if that's something you move forward with, but also taking another look at the library if we're getting another estimate on that and the new center building, just so that we're kind of looking globally.
Okay. Other comments or people who have their hands up? I don't see anyone. Tom, have I missed anyone?
You're good. I don't think there's anyone else for now.
I don't see anyone either. So finally, to our third item under this agenda item, which is a discussion of the proposed new center building at 51 Main Street, future location for school administration offices, the Blanchard School roof replacement, and determine next steps. Jody.
So we've kind of already started talking about these things, but I think the reason why I wanted to at least get this on the radar is we have spent a couple $100,000 on 51 Main. We held off because we bought 63 Main. Now we're selling 63 Main. That will be closing next month. So I'm really looking for direction on where the board wants to go with that. Whether you want us to continue moving forward or where you want us to go and what information you need to give us some direction.
Scott.
Well, just, you know, one of the things that we discussed at the town building committee last meeting was we had a vision originally for this building being primarily, these downstairs, a meeting room. And what COVID has taught us is that we actually have a need for more of a community room, a place for giving vaccines, which is what we use the old fire station for, a place where you could meet for the town common if it rained, which we've used the old fire station meeting for on Memorial Days and Veterans Days, but also, you know, voting. We've been early voting in cramped hallways in town hall. You know, we've used the old fire station. So as we think about what that building's use, you know, could be, perhaps second story doesn't really change much in terms of technology and veterans and facilities, but you know, downstairs we might want to rethink that configuration to make it, you know, less formal meeting and more community, perhaps with different floor types that, you know, one part carpeted, like you might want for meetings, one part perhaps tile or wood is better suited for something like you know, training room for the police department or vaccines, for example. We might be worried about things being spilled.
Jody.
I just wanted to remind people, and some people are new, but we took the training room away from the police department when we built the dispatch center. And at that time, we told them we were going to construct a new training room for them. And then we have held off on doing that. So maybe priorities change, but that is something that we committed to them when they gave up their training room.
So, Jody, Tom, go ahead.
Well, we may have been getting to the same question, Andrea. I was just wondering, so there's been a lot of public discussion on this and many presentations, and this project has a long history. So in terms of moving to proceed, Jody, is there anything procedurally that you need, or what would the procedural steps be? I know we, as a board, need to confirm what path we're on, but just curious about, do you need anything sort of procedurally that you don't already have to proceed?
You're right, Tom. We were both on the same page in terms of what we're going to ask you. Jody, go ahead.
Yeah, so if you remember, we were actually, the last big public meeting we had before we shut down for COVID was a meeting at the fire station to present the center building. And some people ended up testing positive, so everything kind of got stopped. At that time, I believe the discussion of the select board was because we bought 63 Main, you wanted to hold and put the project on hold while we figured out what we wanted to do with it. So that's what we did. It's been about, a year and a half. So I really need direction from the select board, whether you want us to go back and start public education meetings and start moving in that direction for March town meeting. And also we of course need to tear down the existing one and clean up underneath. So I am looking for direction from you, not necessarily tonight, but to realize that we're just on hold waiting for you to tell us what to do.
Scott?
I guess, to follow my other comments, my direction would be, at least for me only, not the board, but, to put this thing back on the front burner, but to ask the town building committee to, talk to architects about possibly making that first floor more multifunction than it might be right now.
Christina?
I thought part of the hold was also to sort of go over what we learned about COVID and to potentially update the building. Did anything change about the design?
I think Tom Mahana would be the person to answer that. Tom?
Sorry. Yeah, well, nothing has changed. As Jody had mentioned, we've essentially, the entire project has essentially been on hold since March of 2020. We've met a few times over that since then with our architect, and I believe Chris is a guest here tonight, and he could speak also if you want him to. But we talked about what potential changes could we make into the design to address some of these, lessons that we've learned with COVID, things like ventilation, operable windows, improved HVAC systems, things like that. But we have not made any changes to the design itself.
Thank you. So speaking, Tom?
I was just going to concur with Scott that I think it is time to move this back to the front burner. I think the needs may have changed, but I think many of the things that drove this project, like making sure that the town staff is working in spaces that are really appropriate for the kind of work that they're doing, and having community space and being able to serve democracy by being able to hold a meeting without having people pouring off in all directions. So I would be supportive of sort of re-engaging with this project towards a spring town meeting.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I'll get you, John, in a minute. I was going to say the same thing, is that is to direct the permanent town building committee to put this back on their front burner, to take a look at perhaps the issue that Scott raised with respect to how we use the first floor and how to design it, or what we want to design it for. But I think the time has come to start moving forward with this again. John, I saw you have your hand up.
Yeah, I think we ought to move forward with it also, but I think there's enough flexibility built in that lower room that we can handle police training, and we can handle some of the other issues. Maybe the floor cover is another issue. And I think we could wait a long time to figure out what we're going to do with the next COVID outbreak or something like that. I think we're going to get ahead of this thing, and I think we should stick pretty much with the design, with maybe looking at the first floor.
So I think that Jody and the Permanent Town Building Committee, I think you have direction from us.
Thank you.
Okay, so just before we leave this agenda item and our joint meeting with the school committee, FinCom, and Permanent Town Building Committee, anything anybody else wants to say or bring to our attention, since you have all of us here in one place? Okay, Jody, and then Chris and Tom.
I guess I would want to ask Chris Chu if he's still, oh, there you are.
He is here.
Would you and the school committee be looking for the feasibility study at the March town meeting for funding? Or are you trying to fast track in October?
I don't think we'd be prepared to even know exactly what we'd be asking for in October. So I think it would have to be March, because we still need to determine what type of consulting agencies we'd be able to consider looking at to figure out what the cost would be. I know it's something we've been talking with Paul Fox about as well too. We do want to get moving on it. So we definitely, I think we would want to be prepared for March. I just don't see how it would be realistic for October unless anybody wants to chime in if they think otherwise. But I would think we would be looking at March.
Okay, so just for the steps that you would want to be putting that request in now in September, so that we'll have that on our radar screen for March. Thank you.
Okay, Tom Mahana.
I was just going to make an observation. I mean, this meeting is great, but it would have been impossible for us to have held this many people with these number of boards in the current meeting, in the current meeting space. And, and I think this is also something that will get factored into going forward, how to hold these types of virtual or hybrid type meetings, both, physically in that space and also potentially remotely too. So just an observation I wanted to share.
Thanks. Anita?
Yeah, I was just kind of holding my hand for Mike Berlinski, who I see as an attendee with his hand up. I don't know if there's a way to call on him or if you wanted Chris to go first and come back.
Why doesn't Chris Saunders go first, and then we'll get to Mike Berlinski. Okay, Chris?
Yeah, thank you. I was just wondering if the ARPA funds provide another possible avenue for funding a school building feasibility study that is neither on the October nor March town meeting timelines.
Yes.
Thanks.
Okay, I can't see Mike Berlinski. There you are, Mike Berlinski. There you are, way down in the corner. Okay, I got you.
Okay, thank you. Mike Berlinski, Chair of the Clean Energy and Sustainability Committee. I just wanted to say we have been tracking some of these town building projects, including new center building, new school roof replacements, and we just want to say we hope that all of the groups involved will consider energy efficiency, reducing energy, consider renewable energy options, and we look forward to participating with the different entities as those processes unfold. So thank you.
Thank you. And I guess I have a question for you, Mike, and for Tom Mahana. Are you guys and are your committees sort of, as you plan for our buildings, working together around sustainability?
Yeah, I mean, Mike and I have communicated, particularly on the center building project as in the past as we're moving forward and making sure that that their committee is involved, and they've attended a couple of our meetings, before we shut this whole thing down. So it would be, our intent moving forward to continue to involve the Energy Committee on the project.
Yes, and we plan to be involved and appreciate heads ups as possible, and we do plan to reach out and be involved as appropriate.
Sounds great. All right. Anything else from anybody? I don't see anything. So thank you, everybody who has attended tonight from all the various different committees. You're certainly welcome to continue to attend our meeting for the rest of the meeting. But we really appreciate your attendance tonight and your participation. And Chris Saunders, I see, has his hand up. So for one last thing.
Yeah, I was just going to adjourn the school committee
okay.
so we can listen at our leisure without being formally in session. Do I have a motion to that effect?
So moved, Chris.
Second.
And Gloria with the second. Okay. All in favor of, Andrea?
No, go ahead.
All in favor of adjourning this meeting of the Westford School Committee. Gloria?
Aye.
Alicia?
Aye.
Catherine?
Aye. Aye.
Valerie?
Aye.
I'm an aye, and I think that's all of us. Yes. Okay, so we're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Do FinCom and the Permanent Town Building Committee want to adjourn or?
Yeah, I like to adjourn as well. Also, I don't know who is on the call, so I just have to call everyone and they thought they would respond. I like to adjourn the Finance Committee meeting on Tuesday, September 14th.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Beth?
Aye.
Dennis? Okay.
I don't think Dennis is here, Harry.
Yeah. Heather?
But can I just have a quick question about it? If we stay in quorum to listen to the insurance, does that pose a problem? Like if enough of us stay on to watch that?
Yeah, you probably should stay in session for that, Heather.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry, so I don't then.
Okay, then we'll leave it until the insurance discussion is done. We'll stay in quorum. Okay.
Thanks.
Offer, motion fails, whatever.
I'll withdraw the motion.
There you go. Tom and Hannah, do you want to stay?
I'll make a motion. Can I get a motion for the Permanent Town Building Committee to adjourn our meeting?
There you go.
We have motion. We have second.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor. I'll start with Nancy.
Aye.
Jean.
Aye.
Scott. I don't know if you should because you got to stay.
I'll say yes to the PTBC.
Okay. Jim.
Aye.
Chris.
Aye.
And myself. That's an aye. I think that's everybody, right?
Okay.
Great. Thank you. Thank you.
No, Roberta's on. Tom, Roberta's on. She also said aye.
Oh, okay.
Yep, she said aye.
Too. Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Great. Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Okay. We're at our 8:45 p.m. item, which now is a joint meeting with the Historical Commission. It's so nice to have all these committees here tonight. With respect to the Historical Commission, do you want to call your meeting to order?
Andrea, I don't believe that there's a quorum of the Historic Commission online. I could be wrong. I only see one member so far.
Okay.
I'm on. If you're missing me, I'm Bruce Doran.
Yeah, that's Bruce. You're the only one I see so far. I don't see any of the other members.
I think we mostly posted them in case there was a quorum, so. All
right, then let's moving right along. It's a discussion as the direction on the 12 North Main Street property related to historic preservation and or demolition. I think as you all remember at a prior meeting, the select board had made the decision that we basically, had gone as far as we could with an RFP. We were not able to negotiate successfully with the developer to take over that property and redevelop it. And so we are now left with what we want to do with it. Initially, I believe our last direction, and Jody, correct me if I'm wrong, was to start the process of cleaning up the property. And I know that we have outstanding a request for a grant in $250,000 that will that could help us clean up the property. I don't believe that we will hear about that grant until the end of October. But in the context of that, and meanwhile, the discussion that we did want to have is, are there parts of that building or site that we want to preserve as part of a historic preservation, as opposed to taking down and demolishing the whole site itself. So I think that's really the topic for discussion. I was hoping that the Historic Commission might have some input on that, or some thoughts about that. So that's where we are. So thoughts?
No, although I certainly don't represent the views of the whole commission, I'm sure. The building is a beautiful stone building with really shaky floors and a serious contamination past. It would be lovely, just from my personal point of view, if at least some of the stonework could be preserved, even if the building can't be rehabilitated into a useful structure. That may be impossible. It may be inconsistent with cleaning up the hazardous waste. But it would be nice if some remnants of that historic mill building could stand, even if the town decided to make that an open use area. But how practical that is, I'm not sure, particularly considering that it needs to be cleaned up. There's hazardous waste there.
Eric, I know that you prepared a memo for us with respect to possible alternatives and where we are. If you'd like to just briefly walk through that with us.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Andrea. So really, we had a structural engineer look at the building roughly a year ago, and we're at the point now where we need to make a decision on historic preservation versus complete demolition. They estimated the pricing anywhere from 1.6 to 1.9 million to take those corrective actions for the building. It's been without a roof for several years now, so it does continue to deteriorate, and every winter just does some extra damage to the building. So we're really looking for some direction because we need to understand which steps to take next, especially once we hear back from the grant, which hopefully will obtain an extra $250,000 to use towards the remediation.
Any thoughts or comments from the board or anybody else? Let me get to Tom Clay.
Eric, this is a question for you, and it's probably in your excellent memo. But are you, I think, as I understand it, it's 1.6 to 1.9 incremental more money to stabilize the building. Is that right? So essentially what we'd be saying is we don't have a clear need, or at least we don't have a clear plan for the building. If we wanted to stabilize it to preserve the option, that would be between 1.6 and $1.9 million.
So the 1.6, the lesser amount, was for the demolition, and the higher figure was an estimated cost to preserve at least a portion of it. That number's highly variable because really to what extent we preserve it, to which portion of the building we decide to save. I guess we really would have to focus on which sections and then probably revisit that number once we identified the exact preferred section of the building to be saved.
Okay, so we don't really have a price tag against a specific preservation plan. That's something we could decide to ask for, but we don't have that yet.
So we would likely, we would need some input as far as specifically which sections of the building. I mean, I think the task force, would have liked to save the entire building, but it's deteriorated significantly at this point. So I'm not sure if it structurally can be entirely saved or not.
Yeah, it sounds like that we need, in terms of figuring out the costs, we first need to figure out what part, if any, we want to save of the building. And then that would drive what the cost will be. I see, Dave Meisner, is that
yes,
right?
Close enough. I'm on the historic commission.
Oh, welcome.
With Bruce. I went to the wrong link, so I was in the gallery, I guess, watching earlier. Is this something that we need to give input to tonight, or can we go back to our commission and put together some more thoughts on it? Some of the other members who weren't able to make it tonight have some extensive background in renovations and restoration, that sort of thing. So they'd have some valuable input.
Certainly, absolutely.
Okay.
If you want to take this back to your commission, which I would definitely urge you to do, and to give us some input, that would be terrific, because that's really what we're looking for from you guys.
Great, then we'll do that. Thank you.
Scott?
Yeah, I guess I'm confused. So I thought at our last meeting on this topic, we decided to, say no to the RFP that was not, to our liking, to then clean the property up, which had to be done anyway, and then put out another RFP to see what we could get back with a more viable site from a health and safety standpoint. And now we're talking about something very different, like this, do we knock it down or not? I mean, I guess I'm kind of curious what's changed in the past month that we've gone from talking about RFPs to rehabilitate to whether we save it or not.
Well, I guess, and Eric or Jody can help me out here, but I think, at least as I read Eric's memo, how we clean it up depends upon what we're doing, whether we're taking the building down, whether we're preserving the whole thing or preserving parts of it. Eric?
Andrea, I'll just clarify the cost of $534,000 that we are anticipating the cleanup of the next phase only focuses on the exterior of the building. The interior of the building is not safe for personal access at this point. So we wouldn't be able to clean up any hazardous materials inside of the building the way it stands today without some significant further stabilization efforts to make it safe.
So in essence, then what you're telling me is that we can't touch the building and all we're talking about is cleaning up the land around it?
At this point, unless we either decide to selectively demolish sections of it or invest additional funds to stabilize it to a point where contractors are willing to go inside and our building commissioner okays it.
So just so I understand, so if we, right now, we can't clean, I mean, at least what you're saying, I think, is that we can't clean the whole property up.
Correct. So as of right now, the $250,000 would be used towards specifically the exterior of the building, which we believe the contamination of the ground is in the first 2 feet. So it primarily being removing soil and replacing it with new.
But again, that still leaves the site contaminated within the building, right?
Correct.
So if we were to put, thinking ahead, any new RFP would still be a site, maybe not as contaminated as right now, but would still be contaminated.
Correct. We likely would not have full closure from the Mass DEP on the site because there would still be additional work required once we decided on the next steps.
Right. We definitely wouldn't have closure from the DEP. That's for sure. Okay, Scott?
I guess I understand now, but we moved the goalposts. I mean, a month ago it was, we weren't told this a month ago that you had to only do the outside and not the inside. So we made a decision as a board, I think, with half the information. So I appreciate getting it now, but I wish I'd known this a month ago.
Okay, Anita?
You know, I feel like it's hard for me to kind of think about direction or guidance on the building when it feels a little bit of chicken and egg of what are we going to do with the property? Because then that helps me think through, well, then how much do we want to preserve, right? Or what are we preserving? Because depending on how we plan to use that land and what that structure would be for, that would help me kind of visualize it a little bit more. And I don't know if we've had that discussion, and whether, I know it's just one more question to add to the mix of things. That's just kind of how I'm feeling right now about it.
John?
Yeah, I agree with Scott. As far as going ahead with decontamination, I think that's job number one on the exterior. And I did understand, I think, just recently that it did not include the interior. So I think Anita's on the right track here as far as let's proceed to move on the exterior decontamination, but have some discussion about what we want that thing, the final thing, whether or not we're going to have part of it preserved or none of it. And I think we need to have that discussion, because if we can't get in there to clean up the building, then we're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Right. Tom?
I guess maybe I'd ask the board to consider, it's kind of hard to think about this without thinking about how complete the cleanup would be and how much it would cost. So I kind of am imagining if the Historic Commission went and came back and said, here's A, B, and C, preserve this, preserve this, preserve this, then maybe we could outline what a plan would be to actually go in and do all the work. Because and I know it's going to be hard to come up with costs, but if we're going to spend millions of dollars to preserve a really shaky structure that can't be decontaminated, that doesn't seem like a great overall plan. If we said, here's a feature we think we can safely protect and then demolish the rest and clean up the rest, if that, I'm not jumping to a conclusion, but something that could be a coherent plan might look like that. So I guess maybe I'm asking that we come up with a couple options for preservation, maybe do a little bit of homework to cost them out and get a sense of how complete the job would be before we jump in. Because if we get the job half done and are left with a shaky structure, we're not going to be any closer to our goal, which is to actually find a productive use.
So if I hear what the board is saying, I mean, I don't think there's any disagreement that, at least with respect to the outside of the building, that we need to start cleaning that up. And certainly if we get the $250,000, that will go a long way in cleaning up the outside of the building. While that's going on, I mean, I think we could proceed on the second prong, which is to, engage with the Historic Commission in terms of, are there parts of the building that we want to preserve? If there are, how do we do that? And how do we then clean up the rest of the site, the interior of the site, to save those parts, if it's possible that we can save them? Is that, am I reflecting what the board is saying?
Yeah.
Okay, so, Scott.
I think that's where we are now. Is we have to clean the outside because it's a public safety issue, and then we need some guidance now from, I think, Historic as to what is vital and what it isn't. We had this discussion with Historic. It was very helpful with Town Farm as to what was vital, what wasn't. So they're good at that. We should get their input efficiently.
Right, I agree, which is why I think that Dave, and I know Bruce is here as well, need to go back to the commission and start that discussion with them, so that they can be proceeding along that, and we start to think about cleaning up the outside and hopefully get the $250,000 grant that's going to help us do that. So
I know that some of the members of the commission who couldn't be here tonight have really good ideas already about what ought to be done with it. So I think we ought to be able to do that. Okay.
So I think that's the plan, Jody. You and Eric have direction. At this point, Dave and Bruce, if you take it back to the Historic Commission and start that discussion, let us know. Doesn't seem to me that, there's any immediate rush here, since we need to wait to see whether we get the grant and how we do that. And that gives you folks some time to talk about the building itself and the historic preservation of the building. So I think we have a plan going forward. Okay. The second item under this agenda item is to consider disbandment of the 12 North Main Street Task Force. We have talked about that at our previous meeting. We had agreed that the task force, we would not disband the task force until they had finished their last items of business, which included approving their final minutes. We've heard from the chair that I believe they're meeting tomorrow night, and at which time they will finish up their business. So it would be my suggestion that we disband the 12 North Main Street with great appreciation and thanks for all of the hard work that they have done over the last years, as of Thursday, September 17th. So is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? John?
Yeah, I'd just like to take a moment. I think they took on a very difficult task. We're sitting here trying to figure out what to do with it. And I think that committee should be commended, that task force, for the effort they put in. I think they did a tremendous job trying to make something out of this. And I think we should express our appreciation to them for their efforts.
Absolutely. They did yeoman's work in trying to do something here and to redevelop this property. There's no question about it.
Yeah, once we took it over, we had a problem.
Yeah. All right. There's a motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor? Scott?
Aye.
Anita?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Aye. All right. And again, once again, thank you to the committee and for all of your hard work over the years. It really is very much appreciated, even though we didn't get to the result that we all wish we had come to. So thank you. All right. We are at our 9 o'clock item, which is to consider moving to a partially self-funded health insurance plan with Blue Cross Blue Shield. Jody, do you want to start this off?
Yes, thank you. This year, the town hired a new insurance broker, health insurance broker, and we have had a series of meetings with the Insurance Advisory Committee and the Public Employee Committee about health insurance and renewal. And this year, our new broker came up with a plan, something we've been trying to look at for several years now, and we're pretty excited about it. We'd like to present it to you tonight, and I just wanted to let you know that the Insurance Advisory Committee voted unanimously in favor of moving to a partially self-funded plan. So I have Mark, Chris Satelli here from Hub, which is, he's our new broker, and he's going to give you a brief explanation of what was in your packet and answer questions.
Great. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Go ahead and welcome.
Thank you very much. So as Jody mentioned, we did a study, basically a retrospective study, as well as actuarial derived expectations for future expenses. You had a fully insured plan with Blue Cross Blue Shield for the past several years. This year, Blue Cross Blue Shield was looking to pass on a 5.9% increase. They did lower it to a 4.9% increase. Our recommendation, based on where your past expenses have been and where we expect them to go to, that you would be best served going to a partially self-funded arrangement, as many other municipalities of your size do. and go with a 2.5% increase to your expenses for this coming year. And also this would enable the town of Westford to help mitigate any type of other future increases, because when you are fully insured, the carriers, they don't lose money. So typically over the long term, so they will on average ask for a couple of percent more than they really need year in and year out. And that's something the town of Westford pays. They'd be best served in keeping that money. So what you're looking at here, and really there's a lot of numbers here for different periods, but ultimately what this shows is our retrospective study. Had you been self-insured, partially self-insured the past 3 plan years, you would have saved about $2,441,000 over that period of time. It's always easier to look backwards than to look forwards, but the claims experience was as such that based on the premium you paid with Blue Cross Blue Shield versus the expenses that were incurred, which are primarily claims, that would have enabled the town of Westford, had they been partially self-insured for that time, to save that kind of money. And we'd like to see you have that opportunity to do that in the future. And by going to a partially self-funded arrangement, you'd be able to. I'll take you through one column really quickly. This is the most current year. You're going to pay about $15.5 million of premium. Very conservative estimate on our part. You pay about $13 million in claims. Really, today you're at about $11.4 million. So again, we're very conservative. Just based on those numbers, we expect you to save about $452,000. You would save about $452,000 if you were self-insured this past year. If I could take us down to the next spreadsheet. Okay, so this would be more of a perspective view. So if we went with a 2.5% increase, we'd be budgeting approximately $15 million. This would save in excess of $200,000 for the town's budget and also save money for the employees, since they'd be paying a 2.5% increase to their rates rather than a 4.9%. That would equate to about $15 million of premium. We expect your claims for this period of time to be about $12.6 million. And then we also expect some prescription rebates to come the town's way, which you can get on a partially self-funded contract. There'll be some stop-loss insurance, so you still have a level of insurance. So we would expect a certain number of claims above $100,000 deductible, which is what you would pay for premium. So you'd get about $567,000 if you were to hit that. The fixed costs, so rather than paying $15 million in premium, you'd be paying about $2.8 million in fixed costs between the fees to Blue Cross Blue Shield and the stop-loss premium. So if that were to be the case, you at the end of the year, you'd end up having about $14.6 million of expenses versus funding $15 million. That'd be a net savings of $346,000. That would go into an insurance trust that would be owned by the town and the employees. I do want to stress that when I give numbers, I'm very conservative. I don't want people to bank on $1 million savings the first year. So I'm going to give very conservative numbers the first year. But suffice it to say, my recommendation was to go to a partially self-funded arrangement for the town, which ultimately means there's no change in benefits whatsoever to the employees, exact same plans, just budgeting lower expenses for those plans on a partially self-funded arrangement. If I could take us down to the next page. All right, then there's some pros and cons when you're self-insured. It's really mostly pros. The only con is if you're not diligent about taking advice on setting rates. So in the event today, if you have a really bad year from a claims experience, Blue Cross Blue Shield is going to come in with a high rate increase. If you're partially self-insured and you have a really bad year, it's us working together with the town. We come up with a higher than normal rate increase. Again, based on what we see right now, the claim projections, we certainly don't see that coming for this next year. But the only time a city or municipality has ever gotten in trouble is when they try to set their rates based on their heart and not their head. And they want to go with the lower rate increase, even though the claims justify a higher rate increase. So that's really the only con. The pro is you have lower premium taxes. The insurer's getting smaller profit margins, so the town's getting those. You can now have the availability of getting prescription drug rebates under a partially self-insured contract. We get much more robust claims reporting that allows us to advise the town and also to see what trends there are to help us devise maybe wellness programs to help mitigate those claims in the future. And from the insurance standpoint, we have stop loss insurance rather than being fully insured. And we can leverage that marketplace quite well under a partially self-funded arrangement. And then your fixed costs will comprise, approximately 12 to 19% of your total expenditures, healthcare expenditures, rather than 100%, and then some today. And then by saving that money each year, adding it to the trust, which I believe we're also looking to add about $691,000 that the town already has saved up in a health stabilization fund to that trust. You're off to a running start to have money added to that trust to help offset future increases if they're ever needed based on claims experience. And I'll take a breath and open up to questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's see.
Jody's question.
Okay, great. Now I can see Jody.
Yeah, so just, in a little simpler terms, our employees and retirees want to stay with Blue Cross, and they don't want to keep jumping around as we've done many times through the years. This method puts the town in control. And as Mark mentioned, we have a placeholder article on the warrant to form a trust, which is required by Mass General Law. We would put in the capital stabilization that we are, not capital, I'm sorry, health insurance stabilization, which I think is over 700,000 now. And then the savings from not paying the premium to Blue Cross would also go in that. That's our insurance policy if we end up having some terribly sick employees. But it gives the town much more control over our health plan. We are eligible to receive significant rebates on prescription drugs. This is something I've been trying to get our broker to show us for the past several years. We can get out of it if we decide that it isn't smart, but it puts us into control, in control, and I think makes really good financial sense for the town.
Okay. Any questions from folks? Comments? John?
Who manages the trust and what does that cost?
I have our compliance attorney on he's an associate of mine that we work together with different municipalities in setting up trusts. So Russ knows the formation of the trust and all the Mass General Law surrounding how it gets managed. So Russ Denver, you're on mute, Russ.
Apparently, I'm the other Mark Crisatelli on the screen.
I was wondering why there were two Marks.
So you're required to have a trustees of the trust. It would be up to either the Board of Selectmen or the town manager to determine who the trustees are. I can tell you in the other 6 or 7 communities that we represent that have self-insured trust, it is normally a town treasurer, the HR director, an auditor, the HR director or representative of the HR director, and a benefit specialist. And in a number of other communities, they have a representative from the Insurance Advisory Committee. It is those group of trustees who establish for a self-insured group, they're referred to as the working rates rather than the premium. And the town becomes obligated to fund to the amount that is determined by those board of trustees of the trust. And those individuals have a fiduciary responsibility to maintain the trust reserves in a manner that will protect the town and the trust itself.
Okay. Scott, I see you have your hand up.
I guess so. Just I get that the employees see no difference in coverage. Mechanically, how do claims work when you're self-funding half of it?
Well, what you're doing is, we set those working rates, which are basically your premium, and those get funded rather than just premium to the carrier. You're actually paying claims plus administrative costs of Blue Cross Blue Shield plus stop loss insurance premium. So as I mentioned, there is a level of insurance. So rather than insuring every claim from $1, you're insuring every claim either past 100,000, up to 100,000, or maybe as high as 150,000, whatever we determine the most appropriate stop loss level is. So the claims they get billed. The way Blue Cross Blue Shield does it is they come up with a level monthly amount that they bill, and then they settle up each quarter. So as your expenses come in lower than what those level amounts are, those just get added right back to the trust.
But an employee sees no difference in how they would get a claim paid.
As far as that goes, it's no different. So Blue Cross is just taking money, that's funded by the town for claims and admin costs. They take that bucket of money to pay the claims.
Okay, thanks.
Jody?
If we didn't have a really strong financial staff in town and a history of the kinds of financing policies and procedures that we follow, I would never recommend this for us, but we are very disciplined. You've seen a lot tonight of what shape we're in, and I think we're very poised to handle this well. One of the things I don't think got mentioned, but even this year, we had a couple of vendors put in quotes of level funding based on our utilization, but Blue Cross tacked 4 or 5 points on top of that. And that's $500,000-$600,000 that we're just paying because they can. And so this gives us a lot more control over that. And that's why we're recommending it. We haven't really discussed who would be who would be a trustee. Certainly Christine Collins, myself at this point, and Pam, and we can pick whoever you're interested, if a board member or FinCom. But the whole point of those trustees is to make sure that we're properly setting rates, so we're not getting ourselves into a situation where we either have to raise rates substantially or we don't have enough funds to pay for the claims. So I don't know if that helps.
Tom, I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Andrea.
I was going to call on a couple of other people, but if you just wanted to add to what Jody said before I do, go ahead.
2 things. One, if we, as we've gotten to know Jody and the town of Westford, it helped us in our recommendation of going to partially self-funded arrangement. There are some communities out there, luckily none of them are communities we work with, that we probably would not recommend this route, but certainly a town like Westford, we would. That's number 1. Number 2, we've not worked with any community that ever had an issue with trustees not setting rates appropriately where a plan had any type of issues whatsoever.
Okay. Tom LaFlamme?
Yes, thank you. So just a couple questions. First, am I understanding correctly that year 1, the town will not see a savings?
No,
to the budget, where the net savings would actually go into that trust instead of going to Blue Cross, basically. So yes, the town would get the money, but it would still be in the budget. Is that correct?
Well, the way I've recommended on the numbers, the town would end up having a 4.9% increase to your current healthcare expenditures if you remain fully insured. And if you go this partially self-funded arrangement, you'll end up with a 2.5% increase. So the ultimate savings would be 2.4% in the first year to the town's amount. Okay.
Okay, thank you. And then the other would be that I would assume that I would find the optimal level to keep in that trust, and that's how we would figure out the rates going forward eventually.
Correct.
Correct. Okay, thank you.
Exactly.
Christina?
Thanks. How many years has this type of arrangement been around?
I can.
Go ahead.
So I can tell you that I have been involved with the city of Westfield, which is out in Western Massachusetts, and they've had a self-funded trust since 1984. We have put in a self-funded trust in the city of Chicopee within the last 3 years. The city or the town of West Springfield, which is about 30,000 people, has had a self-funded trust for at least 15 years. We just put another self-funded trust in the city of Agawam, about 30,000 residents within the past year. You will also see a number of buying or purchasing cooperatives that are also self-funded. So there's a very large 30 community self-funded trust called the Mayflower Trust on Cape Cod. There's a Scantic Valley Trust. There's a Hampshire County Insurance Trust. These have been around for quite some time.
Locally, the Mass Bay, which is towns of Haverhill, schools in Lowell, Haverhill, Tingsboro, Haverhill, Lexington.
Okay, I just had one other question, Andrea, if I could.
Yep, sure.
I feel like I'm missing something. Why would Blue Cross do this? What's the benefit to them?
To offer a partially self-funded arrangement, the marketplace dictates, the marketplace demand dictates it. So not only Blue Cross Blue Shield, but every health insurance carrier in the marketplace in the country offers partially self-funded arrangements. Typically, employers with 200 or more employees, more than half of them throughout the country go with a partially self-funded arrangement. So that's if they don't do it, then Aetna, United Healthcare, Harvard, Cigna, you name it, would certainly offer an arrangement like that.
Okay. So is it that we're taking on the risk of setting the versus them?
Yeah, you're taking on some risk, but not really, because there is stop loss insurance. So heaven forbid someone has $1 million of claims, depending on what stop loss deductible we go with, you would be on the hook for 100,000 or 150,000. Whereas if Blue Cross Blue Shield was fully insured, you'd be on the hook for none of it. Blue Cross Blue Shield would pay the full $1 million.
But then it would show up on your rates the next year.
Correct.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Jody and then Anita.
So last year, when people were not going to the doctor as much, I had to bargain with Blue Cross to give us a rebate, which took months of work. And then they finally agreed to give us back $250,000. As Mark showed you, we have overspent for insurance for the last couple of years based on our utilization. So as I've said, this gives us the opportunity that when we are having savings, it's staying in our trust. It's not going in Blue Cross's pockets. And also to your question, Christina, I don't believe they want us to do this, but they don't have a choice. And we actually used it as kind of a bargaining chip to get them to knock 1% off. We were looking for several more points, but we've really examined this. And again, I've tried to get this to the town for a couple of years now, but we've not had the right broker to help us work this out. So there is a risk, but we have stop loss insurance and we have to be prudent with our trust. But I think it's going to save the town a lot of money.
Anita?
I had a question on the list of cons, which was the last slide in the presentation. There was a bullet about the PCORI, Patient Care Outcome Research Institute tax. I was just wondering if you could provide a really quick overview of what that is. And then is there something that the town of Westford is already kind of paying that's comparable to that 20,000?
Correct. Yeah. So right now, the Patient Care Outcome Research Institute, the PCORI fee, is a tax or fee that was built into the Affordable Care Act. It was supposed to sunset at some time. It is not. It's a, in relationship to your overall healthcare expenditure, it's a small amount of money. It's already built into your fully insured rates today. So you're really already paying that. So although I mentioned as a con, it's really not, because you just see it now. So when you're partially self-insured, you see what you're paying rather than having it baked into your premium. So it's baked into our 2.5% funding recommendation. But I don't see that sunsetting anytime soon. Russ may have more information on that.
No, and the town will actually have to cut a check from the trust and pay it from the trust funds, rather than it being baked into the premiums through Blue Cross Blue Shield, and they pay it directly to the federal government.
Okay. Other questions or comments? I'm not, Heather.
I'm just curious, with the towns listed, are there any towns that we kind of look at too to compare ourselves with in the market basket that use this kind of insurance plan?
Is that a question for me, Heather?
Well, I believe there are, Heather, but I did not do a market basket analysis. If the board would like one, I'm happy to do that. But I do believe other towns in our comparable communities do have partially self-funded plans.
I mean, as Mark just mentioned, there's a group of 4 regional vocational high schools directly abutting your community called Mass Bay Health Trust. They are a self-insured group for 4, as I said, regional vocational technical high schools. They have a trust in place. They're self-funded. They've had very good results over the last number of years as well.
Do I recall that Neshoba,
correct?
Yeah, Neshoba Valley Technical High School is
Yep.
in this type of plan too.
Yep, that's correct.
So that's a close one.
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? So Jody, are you looking for anything from us tonight?
Yes. I am. So if this sounds interesting to you, we want to take this to town meeting to form the trust. And I would also have a further article to transfer our health insurance stabilization into the trust, because there's no reason to have a trust and the health stabilization. I mean, it would probably be after the fact, after all the state legislature approvals, whatever we needed were in place. But we will be renewing, if you vote that later in the meeting tonight, with Blue Cross. So the renewal will go through the way it is. But then over the next several months, pending town meeting, we would switch to a partially funded plan. So yes, if you support this, I'm looking for a favor or a vote in favor to move forward pending town meeting. And if you don't support it or you need more information, we're happy to provide that.
Great. Hari?
Yeah, my question probably is a very simple one. What kind of a flexibility do we have to choose carriers if we go with partially funded plan? For example, today pardon?
Good question. Every carrier out there in the marketplace offers partially self-funded arrangements. So,
and the trust fund transfers across seamlessly?
Yeah, that's your money. So the trust is your money. It's under your control. The only thing you're on the hook for would be claims that were incurred, but not processed yet. So as an example, if you ever leave Blue Cross Blue Shield on November 1, I'll just make up, let's say you went to Aetna. Aetna would start adjudicating any claims incurred November 1 on, and Blue Cross, you would still need to adjudicate claims that were incurred prior to November 1, but not processed yet. And so you'd have 2 TPAs, 2 third-party administrators working simultaneously, but that happens all the time in our business.
Got it. Thank you. I just want to follow up on Vanessa. What are the chances that the payments from the town could spill over beyond what's in the trust fund?
Only if the trustees allow the working rates to be lower than what they're needed to be to fund the anticipated annual expenses. And as I mentioned earlier, it's never happened in my experience working with any self-insured group or communities. And I certainly wouldn't expect that to happen at Westford.
I'm fine with your example data. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Heather, do you still have a question or did you forget to lower your hand?
I'm sorry, I lowered it and then I raised again. I just want to make sure I understand, and this is going to sound silly, but this is just for current employees, right? The retirees would still be under the post, or it would be everybody.
Well, the early retirees that are on your medical plan, as they are now, they'd be part of this. And then anyone that's 65 and over that are on the MedX, they would not be part of this. Although many other communities we have do decide to self-insure the MedX portion. So again, nothing changes. And then the prescription drug portion of that plan stays fully insured. And then the MedX, the medical part, goes self-insured. But you don't have to do that, and that's not what we're proposing right now.
Okay. Jody, were you oh, I'm sorry. Before you follow up, Jody, were you just going to say anything or not? Okay, go ahead, Heather.
Sorry. And then is there any kind of analysis based on, I know when we've gone through the budget process, there's a lot of employees that are nearing retirement age. Does that factor in? Is there any kind of analysis that, kind of shows the demographics of our town employees?
That's something that we as far as looking at the past, we don't know about future retirees, but, looking at sort of the trends. And I think this past year, you've had probably more than your normal average number of people that retired over this past year, because I think the average age came down a little bit. I don't know prospectively, but it doesn't change our projections because we're really looking at the claims and the demographic factors, and that doesn't change. I'll just make up an example. If a 58-year-old is active on your plan as an employee, or that individual turns 59 and is retired and still on the plan, it doesn't change any of our actuarial determinations.
Okay, you good, Heather? Okay, thank you. All right. I don't see any other questions. Tom?
Do you want a motion? That was my question.
Do. That's what I was saying. I don't see any other questions. So is there a motion?
So I'll make a motion to move forward in support of the partially self-funded insurance plan and the accompanying town meeting warrant articles.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor, Tom?
Aye.
Anita?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Aye. Well, thank you all very much. Thank you, Mark and Russ. And Jody and anybody else. I don't know who else worked on this with you, Jody, but thank you for all of your hard work on this. This certainly sounds promising and very exciting.
Thank you.
Okay. So now we're at our 9:15 p.m. item, which is special town meeting.
Andrea, can I dismiss FinCom?
Oh, yes, please. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. So I want to motion adjourn of the FinCom on September 14th.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Beth?
Aye.
Heather?
Aye.
Ingrid?
Aye.
Jake?
Aye.
Jeff? Christina?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Myself, aye. Okay.
Thank you all. Good night.
Bye, good night. Have a good day.
Although you're welcome to stay. Okay. Now we're at our 9:15 p.m. item, which is special town meeting, which is currently scheduled for Monday, October 18th, 2011. I think we're going to talk about that, but first, let's, we want to run through the warrant articles for us, Jody?
Sure. And I think, Dan, if you're out there too, just because I was on vacation last week and I'm still catching up. But anyway, so unpaid bills, we don't have any. right now. So we'll probably end up pulling that off as we get closer. The budget adjustments, we have one, which is I had reduced the part-timer in the treasurer collector's office last year during COVID when the person left. And I really made Christine struggle. And so I'm trying to put that back in. It was just a reduction I made to make the budget work. So that's what that is. Article 3, we plan to have that dismissed. Article 4 is capital. Capital is still meeting. They'll be meeting Thursday. So this is just a kind of a placeholder for these articles. You'll see some of them look like what we also said, ARPA funds. So we'll have to continue talking with you all, whether you support that or whether you want us to go for capital. So that's what that is. This has the transfer to capital stabilization. We should have closed on 63 Main by then, and this would complete, I believe, our promise to replenish stabilization with the proceeds from that. CPC, I believe, is meeting in October. We don't know whether there'll be anything. I think it says article be dismissed, but a lot of these articles might be dismissed by the time you sign it, but so that's a placeholder. I don't know, this one here is because, as you know, we just are installing the electric charging stations at the town hall and at a couple schools. So this will allow us to charge and put the money in a revolving fund. And then the next article will allow us to spend that money. Recycling has asked for a small increase in their revolving fund account too. So that's there. This is what we just talked about. This would establish the health insurance trust fund. And then the second motion, if that passes, would be to transfer our $726,000 into that trust fund from our stabilization. And just to be clear, this is town money that is just in a different fund. So this one is, I can't really speak to this, Eric. I don't know if you want to speak to this about the energy audit.
Yes, so this is the energy service performance contract that we're exploring, working with the Clean Energy and Sustainability Committee, and the $75,000 is for the investment grade audit fee that we would be having to pay if we don't proceed forward with the projects.
That's right. Thank you for reminding me about that. Okay, then we have a couple of road extension and betterments. Dan, if you're out there, I think some of these are coming off.
Yeah, there's only one staying at this point. After Paul Starrett met with the residents and for each of these roads, only the Burn Place extension is requested to move forward at this place at this time. The other ones for Lakeshore Drive South and Grove Street, they want to hold off for now. They couldn't get commitment from all the residents at this time, so we'll request to remove the articles from the warrant.
Okay, so we're probably going to be removing those because I think you're signing the warrant at the next meeting. So if you want to scroll down, the next one's Grove Street, that will be coming off too. I don't believe we need Article 13 unless something's changed, Dan?
Yeah, it depends if we vote to use the ARPA funds to fund the recreation deficit. If we don't, then we do need free cash to help offset the budget.
So we'll put that on 928 for your discussion. And then we have the citizen petition, which we're having select board sponsors since you agreed to do so on the Kai's Pond. And then the next one we figure needs to come off because you haven't formed the task force, and you will tonight, but they're probably not going to be ready in town meeting, October town meeting. So it's with all those placeholders coming off, what number are we down to, Dan, for the warrant?
Be 9 or 10 articles.
Okay.
Okay. So that leads us into the time and place of town meeting. As I said, it's Jody.
Well, I'm sorry. You're actually supposed to tell us, do you like the order of the warrant? And yeah, so we can have it ready for your next meeting. So is there anything you don't like, you want us to change? we try to follow the same format every year.
Good to me.
Angela, are you okay with the order? Okay.
Okay, now we can talk about date and time.
Okay. So right now, our special town meeting is scheduled for Monday, October 18th, indoors at Abbott. I know that Jody and Angela and myself have been discussing whether it makes sense and whether it's safe to hold our town meeting indoors in light of COVID and the Delta variant and the issues that will arise with holding it indoors, spacing people 6 feet apart, making sure everybody is wearing masks, ventilation. So the proposal or suggestion that has been made is that once again we hold town meeting outdoors. We're getting really good at it, and we're getting it down, and that we hold it on Saturday, October 16th, with a rain date of Sunday, October 17th, and that in light of the fact that the warrant looks to be small, that we start at 10 o'clock. As it'll be a little warmer at 10 o'clock than it is at 9 o'clock in October. So that's what has been suggested for us to consider. So comments, thoughts? Tom has a thumbs up. Scott?
Just curious, I mean, if we had 6 feet distancing, how many can we fit in Abbott School? I mean, can we even get a quorum in there if we had 6 foot distancing?
It's a good question. Jody?
We did calculate that last year. Eric, do you remember how many we could fit if we separated everybody? Because remember, it's 6 across and 6, deep too.
Unfortunately, I don't remember that exact figure, Jody. Sorry.
Okay.
I'm just thinking logistically, it may not be any choice. We won't fit.
The other thing is because the Board of Health has required masks, people will have to speak with masks on even at mics, which sometimes can make it difficult to hear.
Mm-hmm.
So, Angela?
I really think that this is the kind of thing that we want to look back on and say, we're glad we did more rather than we didn't do enough. It's just not something in 6 months we want to say, wow, we really should have not all met at the Abbott School while the Delta variant was out there because of what happened. So it just seems like it makes complete sense to do it in a safer place, not put anyone at any more risk than they have to be. And as you said, we're getting pretty good at it. So I think it makes sense to do it this way.
Okay, so I not hearing any objection from anybody on the board. I need a motion for us to change the date, time, and place of special town meeting to Saturday, October 18th, 2021, on the field of Westford Academy to start at 10 a.m.
So moved.
Excuse me, you said 16th before, didn't you? Did you just
Yeah, October 16th.
Okay. And the rain date is the 17th?
Correct.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, without any further discussion, all those in favor, Anita? John?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Scott? Aye. Okay, we should get that up and posted, on our website and every place else as soon as possible, since we are changing the date that's been up there for a while. Great, thank you. Okay, old business. Hey, Scott, just so you know I'm paying attention, you changed your background. Anyway, old and new business. We have to consider the makeup of membership and appoint members to the committee to study ways to increase attendance at town meeting. We have 15 residents who have applied for this committee. I don't know what the preference of the board is, but I will certainly state my preference and make my pitch is that, 15 people from various different backgrounds, connections to various different groups in the the town, different genders, different ages. I think it's a diverse group of people, and I would suggest we appoint them all. Scott?
Yeah, I was going to say that we have a precedent after the past couple committees. But yeah, a really bad move to making town meeting more open is to close off the list of people who want to get better. So yeah, I have to take them all.
Somehow it doesn't send the right message, does it? Right. Other comments or questions? Okay, seeing none. Tom, you're going to make a motion, right?
I will. My brief comment, though, is it looks like we've got good coverage of groups. I'm not sure from the list if there's any people who would focus on young adults, but I certainly would want to approve all the people who've already volunteered. Just the thought of, are there groups we'd like to engage with that might benefit from representation here? But I'm in favor of that group, and I'll make a motion to appoint the group as listed to this committee.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? Scott?
Aye.
Anita?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Aye. And Tom, if there's sort of a group missing, like young adults, a member of this committee can reach out to them. So, all right. Thank you to all 15 of you folks who volunteered. Thank you very much. We'll be in touch with you in terms of setting up the first meeting and just, organizing the first meeting moving forward. Somebody from Town Hall will be in touch with you. Jody, are you just saying it's going to be you? Okay. Jody will be in touch with all of you. All right. Thank you. Okay, next, we have a request from the Economic Development Committee to appoint Mark Cost as a full member for a term expiring on June 30th, 2024. Is there a motion to appoint?
So moved.
Second. All those in favor? Anita?
Aye.
Scott?
Yeah, I'm not sure he's qualified, but I'll say aye.
Okay. Tom?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Aye. We knew we couldn't keep Mark away.
I know, you can't just stay away.
All right. We have a request from the Cultural Council to appoint Sherry Bain as a full member for a term expiring on June 30th, 2024. Is there a motion to appoint?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor? John?
Aye.
Anita?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Aye. And then we have a request from the town clerk to appoint election officers for terms to expire July 31st, 2022, is listed in our packets tonight. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All those in favor? Tom?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Anita? Aye. And lastly, we need a clerk, guys. The select board needs a clerk. So does somebody want to volunteer to be a clerk? Scott,
I was just going to say that since John caught you on our first closing open meeting, John's now nominated by me.
Okay.
I'll second the nomination.
All right.
I wonder where you're going to find the clerk.
All those in favor? Tom?
Aye.
Aye. Scott?
Aye.
Anita?
Aye.
John?
Abstain. No.
Oh, John.
Aye.
All right. Thank you. Any board reports or updates? I'm not seeing any. Okay, we have minutes for approval. We have minutes from an executive session on August 10th, 2021 for approval, but not for release. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor, Scott,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Anita,
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Aye. And then we have minutes from our regular session of August 17th, 2021 for release. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, Scott,
Aye.
Anita,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
and I abstain, wasn't here. Okay, town manager's report. You're up, Jody.
Sorry, you fooled me when you said you abstained. I already recorded your vote, so I had to change that. So, okay, so one thing we're asking is for you to approve a license agreement to temporarily allow Rodenbush to occupy space in the Millennium Building while repairs are being made at the Frost School.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? Anita,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Aye.
And secondly, we're asking if a select board member would like to participate in the interview process for related to the request for qualifications for the Recreation and Aquatic Center feasibility study.
Anybody want to volunteer? John will volunteer.
I'll do it.
Okay, thank you. And then for contracts, we have Blue Cross Blue Shield for health insurance renewal for town and school employees for the period of November 1st, 2021 through October 31st, 2022 at a 4.9% renewal increase. BME Strategies to provide grant management services in the amount of $86,200 as requested by the Health Department, and BME Strategies to provide accreditation management services in the amount of $86,200 as requested by the Health Department. Weston and Sampson for fiscal year 22 landfill environmental monitoring services amount of $12,400. And purchase orders with Dennis K. Burke for gas and diesel in the amount of $44,000. Presidio for smart new support in the amount of $30,016.72. And Site One Landscape Supply for the purchase of ground maintenance materials and supplies in the amount of $27,810.
Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
And is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? Tom,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Anita?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, we have correspondence. Before we waive reading, Jody, I just have a question for you. The correspondence that we got from the Department of Telecommunications and Cable regarding our license with Verizon, has that been forwarded to our CAC committee?
I would have to ask Eric about that.
Okay. Eric, have we forwarded that correspondence about starting negotiations for renewal of the license to the Communications Access Committee?
I don't believe we have, so I'll certainly make sure it happens tomorrow morning.
Great. Appreciate it, because they certainly should. I know they were involved in the last renegotiation, so they certainly should be involved in this one as well. So with that, is there a motion to waive reading of correspondence?
So moved.
Is there a second? Did somebody second it? Did I miss it?
Anita, I did.
Thanks, Anita. And by a show of hands, all those in favor of waiving correspondence? Okay, it passes. And with that, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor? By a show of hands? Great. Thank you all very much. We had a really jam-packed full agenda, but we really went through and really got through a lot tonight and achieved a lot. So thank you all very much. Thank you for everybody who participated tonight. Good night, Westford. Everybody stay safe and be well.
Excellent job staying on time, Andrea.
9:55. Yeah.
Good night.